Welcome back to the Carp Chronicles podcast, episode number, I don't know what, actually. But what I do know is it's the first episode of 2026, and we're joined by the awesome Jason Ryder, and this is all about big fish stories. Jason's obviously very well known for his adventures overseas, and that's what he's sharing with us today. It's in light of his new book that's out, which is called A Break from the Old Routine, which genuinely is a very good book. I get sent quite a few books. I have been sent quite a few books. And this is one that I actually keep picking back up and diving into stories. It is gripping stuff. And what Jason does in this episode is he runs us through just some of the, quite frankly, amazing stories of his most recent adventure. I mean, it genuinely is probably some of the very best fishing you're ever going to hear about. Phenomenal stuff. I'll let the episode speak for itself, but that's what this episode is all about. Now, Jason's obviously done a few episodes with us before, which were very much bait focused. This isn't. This is about his big fish adventures overseas. I mean, we do talk about bait very briefly, but it's not a bait episode. This is an angling story episode, and I'm sure it will wet the whistle for anyone that is thinking of fishing overseas. Now, obviously, as I say, it is these stories that he shares with us. They're taken from his book. If you would like to grab a copy of his book, and I actually strongly recommend you do. Look, I get sent quite a few books. You'd be surprised. And I'll be honest, this sounds awful, actually. I'm going to offend people that have sent me them, but there's a lot of them I just don't really read, or I try to get into it. I'm not a big reader. I'm just not a big reader. This book is actually very, very good. It's something I keep going back to. I really enjoyed the stories and just the realness of it all. So if you want to go and check this book out, it's called A Break from the Old Routine. It's obviously by Jason Ryder, and you can get this on calmproductions.com. Most of you that buy it, if you've bought a fishing book before, you probably have heard of Carp Productions. So you can get it from there. You can also get it by contacting Jason himself on social media. He's on Instagram and Facebook. So if you search Jason Ryder, you'll be able to drop him a message and get it directly. So yeah, brilliant episode coming up. A little bit different from what we've done with Jason before, but really, really entertaining. Before we jump into it, of course, as always, I will give you an update on OptiBaits. Loads has been happening. There's loads of new bits on optibaits.com. If you haven't been there for a while, I really recommend you go and have a look. Most notably is the Tutti Deluxe boilies. Most of you know that we do boilies now, after rolling them for myself for well over 20 years. I'm bringing them out to you guys. So yeah, we've got the Tutti Deluxe boilies, which have been going down an absolute storm with those who have taken the plunge and gotten involved with them in what I honestly think is the ultimate winter / spring bait. It's a bit of a far cry from the old Tutti, actually. It's the exact same flavour recipe, which I'll touch upon in a minute, but it is a proper HNV style bait. Plenty of milks in there, plenty of this very lovely yeast actually that I use in there at high levels. A lot of people can pick that out when they taste it and smell it. And yeah, what I've done is just launched a very special deal where you can get 10 kilos of this boilie, plus a bag of Lacto Prime primer powder and a large pot of Tutti snowballs for a bargain price of just £98. So 98 quid, and you get 10 kilo of this boilie, Tutti Deluxe boilies, HMV style, and a bag of Lacto Prime powder and a large pot of Tutti snowballs. If you don't know what the Tutti snowballs are, they are a bottom bait coated with multiple layers of liquids, powders, all highly stimulatory and highly effective, and most of all, really unique. There's nothing else like this on the market. There genuinely isn't. And they've gone down an absolute storm since I released them. If you put one on your tongue and then put it in water to see how it reacts, you'll see exactly what I mean. The taste of it is phenomenal. The way it acts in the water is really unique. And those Tutti snowballs really are something special. Along with that, obviously, you get a big old bag of Lacto Prime, which is it's basically a highly stimulatory milk powder complex that's designed for coating up your boilies. Literally just do a very thin layer of lake water onto the Tutti Deluxe boilies and then powder them up with the Lacto Prime primer powder, and they are going to be clouding up the water and pumping out a lot of good signals. You do not need to overdo the Lacto Prime primer powder. If you add in shed loads, the water's going to go super milky. It's going to be super attractive for the carp, but they might get saturation overload, and they might not be able to actually find the bait. So just very lightly dampen all your boilies with a bit of lake water, put them in a bucket, chuck them around, chuck that Lacto Prime powder in, get a thin coating on it, and you're going to get some serious results, is what I believe. That Tutti boilie in itself has literally transformed people's winter fishing. It's something I brought out, for those who don't know, as a limited edition thing. And I had it in my mind, I was going to go big with this, actually. Let's get a load of it out there. And then I came to it, and in light of how well the Ocean Pro has done and how I kept on selling out, I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to double the output of the Tutti. And of course, not as many people fish in winter, do they? I did go overboard with it. I have got a lot of it left. But for those people that have got on it, honestly, it's transformed their winter fishing, and it will continue to do so right through spring for the people who decide to jump on it. So, as I say, special deal, 10 kilos. This is the whole reason I'm selling it off cheap, by the way, is because I've just rolled shitloads of it. So, 98 quid for 10 kilos of bait of that caliber, along with a bag of Lacto Prime primer powder and the Tutti snowballs. It's just unbelievable value for a bait of that caliber. So if you'd like to go ahead, grab yourself a bargain, you could do so at optibaits.com. The deal's only up for a limited time. The boilies are limited edition only. Once they're gone, they are gone. As I said, winter specific, but they will catch phenomenally well through spring. Come summertime, I'll move on to something else. And actually what I do is I use the Tutti, and then I will use it alongside the Ocean Pro and gradually put in less and less Tutti, more and more Ocean Pro, make the switch like that, and everything is beautiful. So that is what I'm doing. As I said, if you want to jump on that deal, you could do so at optibaits.com. That is OPTI baits.com. That's it for the intro. I'll finish waffling on. I've had a few beers, probably talking way too much. Let's get stuck into this awesome episode with Mr. Jason Ryder.
So, I've brought this new book out, A Break from the Old Routine, which is just that. It's a 5-year diary of a big fishing journey. It was at the start of COVID, and I came up with this conclusion that, I could pretty much manage my own time. I could work in the winter. I could go fishing for 6 months in the summer. And I had this mad plan in made. I don't know where it came from. I wanted to catch 40-pound carp from 50 different venues, and I wanted to catch 100 fish over 50 pound. Now, it was a target I set myself. It's just numbers, and it's actually irrelevant, because what I hope people get from the book, if they read it, is the joy of fishing, the joy of nature and travel and the unknown, because that becomes much clearer with the more you do. It picks up really from the last book I did. That covers the last year. So this is the last 4 years. And at the time, I was working for the government. So during lockdown, I could drive around in my car, go anywhere. If the police stopped me, show them my paperwork, that's fine, onwards and upwards. And I thought, well, what about if I go to Europe and I go fishing? And I thought, well, it's going to be a nightmare the other side. So owning a lake, I went to the mayor and I said, can you do me some paperwork saying I need to get over and feed my livestock and that? So that's where the book starts, during COVID. I turned up at Eurotunnel, and I said, "Do you want to go on the train now?" I said, "Yeah, if I can." Anyway, drove round, got on the train. They closed the doors, and away it went. I mean, from showing my passport to leaving the country in 3 minutes, I was the only one on the train. And I thought, well, this is fine until the train pulls in and I'm the only one that gets off it. Then all hell's going to let loose. Um, but it was like, I think even the police weren't interested. It was raining that much. So my plan initially was to go to my lake, feed my fish, assess the work that needed doing, any jobs in hand, then go onwards to another fishery one day later. Well, with all this rain coming down, it just seemed bloody stupid, mate, to do one day's fishing.
Mm.
A little sip. So anyway, I pulled in the services. I rang this guy. I said, "Look, mate, can I come a day earlier?" And he wasn't there. So hand force turned up my lake, sat outside the gate, pouring my rain for half an hour. Gone in, set up. And it was just mental. I couldn't keep a rod in the water. And I'm not just talking carp. Everything needed feeding. There was dench, bream, grass, carp, everything. It was just mental. And it got down, it's getting dark, and I got 2 rods out, and I'm knackered. Anyway, one goes off, drags the other one out of position. I land the fish and think, right, I'm going to bed now. I've got 1 rod out, it's in the wrong spot. Now, I think we talked about this the last time we talked, about designing a bait for catching the older fish, how their receptors improve, how they get more in tune to their natural system, and the more artificial something is, probably the more it's going to stand out as a red flag, right? Well, I've never been one for targeting a fish. I'm a proper carp nomad. I go somewhere. If I like it, I might come back. If I like it, I might not. I like going to different places. So I've never targeted big individual fish, When you've got probably the oldest living fish in the world in your own lake, things change a bit. You think, right, I seriously want to catch that fish, It's not going to last much longer for a start. It's recorded back to like 1971, photographic.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when I got it, it was it come out. It was £18 the first year, and all its fins and its tail were withered away, and it got battered. It got caught every week. And I said to mate, if you catch it, just put it in the farmer's pond next door. Let it live out its life. Anyway, it went missing for about 18 months, presumably dead. I mean, it was written off more than once. And then when it came out, it was £34, and it looked nice. But I'd caught every single fish in my lake. And every one I caught, I was looking in the net to see if I'd got this fish, the Jurassic, I called it. So I designed this bait, which was virtually organic with some natural attractors to catch it. And it had caught a few fish on the lake the first time I used it. But anyway, long story shorter, the rod that I thought had been dragged out of position went off about 1 o'clock in the morning, and it felt like a decent fish. And it was pouring with rain again, and I thought, right, I've got no waterproofs, no glasses, plus I've got to set my video lights up, and all this is going through my head. Anyway, I see a white flash, slip the net under it, it's in the net on the net station. So put my jacket on, find my glasses, I can see something now, set up the video lights for a photo, turn it on, bang, there it is, mate, in the net. It's like the biggest weight it ever came out at, but like literally one photo, just standing there in the dark, and you're thinking, I'm miles from anywhere, I'm on my own, the world's in like some sort of zombie apocalypse, and I'm thinking, this is why I go fishing, what I mean? This is just feels magic. So
and this is, people are just, sorry to interrupt you, but people are going to want to know, this is your lake in France, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, we've lost that fish now. I mean, it lasted about one more year, and I did catch it again. Right. I mean, there's still it lasted about 8 years longer than I thought it was going to be honest.
Yeah.
Hence the urgency to catch it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's pouring with rain, so I got back in the car and I got off to this next lake, which is called Moulinet. There's a place I fished years before with my wife, and we mainly argued. So it was 3 swims there. So I went in the middle one because my mate's coming down to join me the next day, and it's just pouring the rain. But I think it's nice to be in the bivvy anyway. We're making a brew. I'm here, and I see a fish roll on my right hand side close in, and it wasn't a big fish, so I didn't think anything about it. Anyway, next one that rolled there was a big fish. So wound in a rod, flipped it out, 2 rod lengths. Um, about midnight, that charges off. So that's £58. Um, it's a pretty good start to the year already.
Yeah.
So anyway, mate, Ian arrives the next day, and I can see him, and they're pointing at me like he's over there. And I said, like, Ian, you can choose whichever side. My swim or either side of me. And just as I said it, the right hand rod went off again, and that was another 48, and that was that was how that session went. Really, for me, I mean, those fish hadn't seen decent bait for a long time, and I gave it to them in spades. But I knew equally at the same time I knew the bait wasn't going to last. Um,
Mm.
so I had a backup bait that I was feeding in my Lake Badger, and the reason I was feeding it, it was my plum shellfish bait, but I'd asked them to leave out all the attractors and just put the ultra spice in, but they had left the other attractors in, and it just smelt wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like everything was
Mm.
working against each other. Nothing was in harmony with it. I think I put it on Facebook, like at cost price or cheaper. Does anyone want it? I'm not happy with it. This and that. Um,
This
so that
was this was rolled for you in France because you didn't want to take your own.
no. I'd taken my own in spades.
Oh.
I mean, after catching the Jurassic, I put 40 kilo in Badger of this red bait.
Mm.
And that's often my approach with if I've got an exclusive on a lake which is under 5 acres, I will feed the first day or two. I will feed every single spot that I think it's likely to get a bait off. If
Mm.
that's 20 kilos all over the lake, I don't care because I just figure the more fish that are eating that bait, the
Yeah.
more you're eventually going to catch. It's what you've got and the time you've got to do it. You don't have to catch all the fish on the first day. In fact, if you do, you're probably not going to catch that many more.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, this red bait, it rained the entire week. It just didn't stop. This red bait went out on the last day, and then the first fish that caught was a £60 common. And I thought, well, this bait's not too bad actually. Um, so then we packed up. We went back to Badger in the rain. Now my intention was, I think I had 5 days there, and it was mainly to do work. I had like 20 or 30 ton of gravel that had been dropped in the gate, and I had to shovel it and make a hard standing with it by hand with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. So the first morning I got up light, which is in June. You're looking at 4 a.m. or something like that, aren't you? And I think I had 3 bites before 7 a.m. and all of them were 50s. I went off, shoveled gravel for 8 hours, absolutely knackered. Come back, put 2 rods out. I had 3 bites in the evening, and every one of them was a 50 pounder.
Jeez.
Uh, yeah, and it was the ones I wanted as well. It was the missing ones. I mean, one had been missing for about 4 years. I'm going to describe it like it's a deformed fish. It's got like sort of these big indentations, like the size of a coin, and it's got like a swallow type tail. But it's a mint-looking fish. It's quite unique, and that hadn't been out for 4 years. I presume that was dead. That was one of them. And that session, it was just like that. I mean, it was perfect conditions. It had been pissing down the rain for 2 weeks. They had all that bait to get on. They were looking for it. But my mate Ian was fishing the way he fished, with lots of pellet and chopped up stuff and a whole bait boat full of gear. And he was catching fish after fish. And none of these were over 40. And I was literally just fishing an old style stringer, with 4 baits on a bit of PVA string.
Mm.
Yeah. Um,
So are you attributing this to the way that you're fishing, the stringer, or I presume
yeah.
not, or the actual bait itself?
The bait itself, definitely, because it's perfect conditions, and they've eaten a lot of it
Yeah.
without any reprisal or fear of being caught.
And does this tie
Uh,
in with the bait that you created for the what you call the carp that you call the Jurassic?
no, because I'd run out of it.
Right.
So,
I
but I
didn't know
mean,
if you were going somewhere with this in terms of old fish and certain types of bait. That was all.
no, it was just because there'll be people on here who will say, just because it seems right to you, mate, not making a strawberry cheesecake.
Yeah.
Um, carp don't feel like that. But
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 40 years. I've got a good idea by
Mm.
tasting something and looking at it, whether it's going to be good or not, and this, although you can overcook a pudding, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this is the basic mistake of first time bake makers, like originally they want to make their own bake because it'll be cheaper. And what they end up is making the most expensive bake that's ever been made. No, it's
Yeah.
true, isn't it? And
It is.
everyone's done it. I'll put my hands up. I've
Yeah.
heard GLM's good. That's going in. Whatever level, you know what I mean? And Carl Robin Red's good. That's going to get piled in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that. And you're not creating an identity. You're not creating a
No.
specific product. You're just fighting it. You know, you're making a mishmash. You know what I mean? One plus one isn't two. It's still one. It's just one different thing.
Yeah. I
Um,
see. I see a lot of people send me recipes. And it's literally, if you were to put that into human terms, in terms of making like a dish, a food, right? It's literally like slinging every food item that tastes really good together. You would never do that as a chef, or you'd never do it at home. You'd never cook a meal up with just everything that you really like together. And I think it's
no,
kind of the same for bait, isn't it? Like you need a theme of the bait, and everything needs to work together to be a set food thing. Does that make sense?
it makes perfect sense. But there's kind of a lot more to it than that. I mean, at the moment, like without going into great detail about the medical thing again, every week I have to see a dietitian
Yeah.
and I have to show them a food diary of things that I tried to eat because I mean I've been on this liquid diet now for 3 months,
Mm,
and it things that you think you can eat you can't. It's all to do with starches, different enzymes in the mouth. Um,
yeah.
I mean, certain things I put in my mouth, it just instantly removes all the moisture, and it's like someone stabbing pins in there.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a completely different science, but there's all sorts of things. I mean, at the end of the book, I mean we've talked a lot about flavors here, and I won't go into it too much, but you can read yourself. So
Yeah.
there's a chapter on flavors. One, how you make them, examples of recipes, why they work, the different baits, the different solubilities, um, the basic construction of them, like through nature identicals, compounds, found in the stinky fish flavors, compounds found in natural creatures and things replicated. It goes all into that. And hopefully it will give some people an understanding that a flavour is actually a food. They are
Yeah.
food ingredients, and you
It,
you should you should treat it as a food. It's not necessarily just an aroma that you can sniff. Um,
I agree with you.
Unfortunately, 95% of people won't, but they won't consider it because I'm probably really anal about it, and it matters to me that bit of understanding. If you can sniff a bag and you really like it and you have your PB on it, all power to you. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole aroma thing. Like the amount of people that come into my little bait thing, and obviously I'm sure you have this as well. They'll look at a flavor. What's the first thing they do? They smell it, and then they'll put the lid back on. No one's tasting anything. And I know it's obviously what you're saying is more complex than that, but people are just interested in the smell. They're not interested in the taste. They're not interested in on how that is going to affect the bait as a whole. And yeah, it's just
Yeah,
all lacking, isn't it?
I mean, there's certain things that I'm not going to taste. I mean, someone put a crab flavour under my nose at the show, and I tasted it, and it was like priaponic acid. It nearly went through my
Yeah.
tongue.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's L3 Lindelol,
Yeah.
skatol. Do you know that?
I know. Yes. Absolutely fucking evil stuff.
It doesn't matter how many containers you put it in. I mean, you can put it in 10 bags. If you've had it out that day, you will still smell it for two
It's,
days.
yeah.
It's literally wretched.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it in a couple of things, and I make sure that I just blend it once a year and clear my hands of it. I don't want to be near it.
Mm.
Um, and yet, and that is, it replicates thesis, doesn't it? You know, of microorganisms and things. But the carp are tuned onto it. I mean, in I mean, so if people go back and they write that down and research it, need to understand that with that the level is so low. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
um, a gram of it's going to cost you about £100 to start with.
Yeah.
But I would start off by diluting that gram, like into 100 ml of Scopex or something like that. And then if I was making 25 litres of flavouring, I would take maybe 30 mils out of that 100 ml bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It's in a lot of foods, just in very, very tiny levels. Like, I
yeah,
bet there's not one person listening to this that hasn't consumed skatol. It'll be in like ice creams and cakes and things like that.
yeah, 100%. I mean, like citric acid it is American chocolate, right? You eat Hershey's or something, and
Very
if
different taste, and that's
yeah, absolutely. You know, and you know, like I got a friend out there. Every time I go to America, he says, "Guys, bring me some dairy milk, man, please." You know, so and yeah. So anyway, the next venue I went to, and it features quite heavily in this book. It's a French water. Well, it's a complex, and I fished it about 15 years ago, and I really, really liked it. But French bank holiday arrived, all these people turned up with bait boats, and it was carnage. And I thought, you know, this isn't for me. But I was stuck in France, pouring rain. I had 3 days of the trip left, and I had a look on the internet, and I saw the website, and there was an English speaking person as a booking agent. Rung her up, and she goes, yeah, you should go on Lake 3 for 3 days. You'll catch some fish. Anyway, I did nothing massive, but I thought, wow, this place has changed so much. There was no one there. The swims, you just drive up and walk into shallow margins. You know, there's no beams or gravel or anything like that. It's just totally natural, but nowhere there. Um, and I thought, if I'm doing this massive, like 5 year plan, this challenge, I want to try and fish a venue where I can go onto the lake. I don't know what's in it, but spend some serious time there. You know, I've never ever done that, like a really long session in one place. I normally get bored. So I booked 3 weeks on this lake, but I thought I'd wreck it first. So I went there for 3 nights. Poured the rain. I heard the third night, I heard fish crashing to my left, and I should really have cottoned on a lot earlier than I did, but I didn't. Anyway, I was going to blank. The last morning, I caught two horrible big grass carp. So I thought, right, when I'm coming back, I can't stand the things. It's going to have to be 24 mil boilies on there. Um, so the next story on there, it's quite a mad one. I've turned up for this 3 week session. Anyway, it hasn't stopped raining since the last time, and the river's coming right up. Um, and The first night, I think I hook a fish and it's kited into the margin, and I think it's a grass carp because that's what they do. They just kite, don't they? Anyway, so I put the chesties on, walked down the margin, got the rig back out the thing, and I rung the lady up and I said, "Look, I think it's a bit dangerous fishing where I am because the water level's so high. Could I fish on the other bank?" Um, and she took a load of swims out where it had caused problems before. She took these swims out. So the bottom end of the lake where I'm fishing is the deepest end, but you've got so much water. Um, anyway, I put two rods out. I found a clear bit. Couple of days in, and all I caught is a couple of big tench. But there's fish in the margin in this stalking base. So I started fishing there, and I I lost one on a back leg. The back leg's tightened up, and the fish is in the tree. Okay. So then the second one, it's all hook and hold stuff. I'm sitting there next to it. Anyway, the next one I've lost as well, and I think this is no good, right? Whatever happens now with this next fish, the side's whether I keep going on here or not. Anyway, I landed it, and it was a mid 30 mirror, which are probably the hardest fighting fish you can get. Right? It's like a young male. You know, I'm not looking something that's 60 years old, you know what I mean, that's doddering around there.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I can land that, I can land anything. But I'm not fishing there at night because I can't be on my rod, so I wound him in. Anyway, the next morning, it's got this mad toilet there. It's this huge barn. You climb up these steps when it is just a French hole in the ground, and used to call it pitch and putt. But I looked at the river, and it's flooded the opposite bank completely. It's burst its bank. It's gone over. And the lady, she swung me up and she said, "Look, if it keeps raining, you'll have to leave because, you know, you're going to get flooded out, and then you're in all sorts of trouble." And I'm thinking, shit, I booked 3 weeks. You know what I mean? But I'm also thinking that I don't really want to spend 3 weeks margin fishing either. So the next day, I sat by the rod for 12 hours, right on it, poised the whole time. Nothing happened. And I've run out of tea bags or something. I've gone back to my car and it's screamed off. And I thought, oh God, that one's gone, isn't it? That's lost. But it's gone, and it's the widest fish I've ever seen. I thought, oh my God, this is absolutely massive, this mirror. I think I've got to have a look at it, and like lifted it up, and it's so deep. I'm thinking this fish is enormous. I mean, I've seen some big fish, but I'm thinking this is so big. Now, there's one other guy who I know, and he's fishing halfway up the lake. So it's getting dark. I jumped in the car, gone up there to find him, and he's left. So I got to do. This was my first ever self take. I was quite happy with it, but when you go through this book, most of them are self takes in this book. Anyway, I looked at the fish again and I lifted it out, and it didn't have length. You know, it really didn't have any length, but it was still 65 pound. You know, it was probably the biggest mirror in the lake, and I had no idea what was in this lake. So the next morning she's come round and she said, "Oh, you know, you got to leave tomorrow. It's definitely gonna flood." And I think, oh man, you know, I don't want to go. Anyway, I sat there all day again. Nothing's happened. And I thought, what I am going to do, I'm not fishing a long way out. You know, it's 20, 30 yards, but it's a shelf. It goes from 5 foot down to 20 foot quite sharply. And I'm fishing the bottom of the shelf. And I thought, I'm going to accurately map it with a GPS. And I'm going to leave 3 kilos of 24 mil boilies on both those spots for when I come back. Quick spray. Oh, my mouth gets a bit dry. Anyway, so, you know, I'm packing up in 5 minutes. And bearing in mind, I've just put 4 kilos on both rods of 24 mil boilies. You're not expecting a bite, are you? Yeah. So I'm bringing the bait boat out, and I've taken out the right-hand rod. Now, the 4 bites I've had, the right-hand rod has done every bite. So 100% that was the last one I was going to reel in. But I've knackered it now anyway, so I reel that in, putting that rod back in the car, packing up, and the other rod's belted off. And I'm thinking, Jesus, I'll be lucky to get this. Anyway, I was lucky to hook it because, like I said, that was the rod I was going to wind in. Anyway, it's gone all through the tree. I've jumped in. I'm up to my waist in water. It's come over the top of my waders. And then I see it's gone out into open water, and I've got a bit of a safety valve with that. Anyway, it's gone in the net, and it's a common. And as far as I know, there's only one common in the lake, and it's got these red marks on, and it's over 70 pound. So I'm looking at it, and it's got these red marks on its belly. And I'm thinking, Jesus, man, this, you know, that doesn't look bigger than the other fish. So I've gone to lift it in the net, and it is bigger than the other fish. So there's one other guy on another lake, a Dutch guy. So I belted around there and brought him around because it's going to be pitch black in 5 minutes. Anyway, that one was 68.14, and that was the biggest common on the complex. Well, the biggest fish on the complex. And I had to go. You know, I packed the car, but again, it was another one. No rods out overnight, but just so excited, you're just wide awake, getting bitten by mozzies all night. You know, under the body, just waiting to leave. You know, and I'd already scheduled some more fishing, so then I drove down to Limoges to fish a lake, another lake I fished about 15 years ago called Meadow Lake, and which is owned um, by Rob Mirapole Fisheries. Give him a little quote there. He uses my bait, and he's a good guy. And it was quite a mad one. You're thinking that no one's fished here because of COVID for a year. Like all the bank was all overgrown. There was deer coming down, walking around in the lake. But the fish had reverted to their natural way of being, you know, and I'm talking there, you know, there's no groups of fish, you know, they're swimming around near the top, they're in ones and twos, you know, they're opportunists feeding on whatever they can get. And it was for 3 days, it was quite clear that you'd think you'd turn up piling a load of boilies, which I had on about 4 or 5 spots I like the look of, and no response at all. But you could see the behaviour of these fish. You know, they were used to feeding on naturals. I think the wind started blowing. I chucked the rods in the car, and there was a few fish in this corner. I couldn't even get a bite there. Um, oh, are we still rolling?
Yeah, I'm still rolling, mate.
Yeah. Anyway, day 4, and everything changed. You could see the fish's behaviour. The only fish that was showing over the bait. You knew it was going to happen, and then you know steadily it started getting better. And I think I had like 5 or 6 fish, which isn't crazy good. But I've been feeding this milk protein baiting as well, and you know, again something I hadn't used for years and years and years. And I was sticking out most of my fish meal, but the milk proteins where they fluffed up and they were out of shape, they wouldn't fit in my stick. So I was having to send them out in the bait boat. Anyway, the second week I rung him up and I said, like, what options have I got? And he said, well, you can come down to like it wasn't Miriam, Millstone. And you can go into a draw at 1 p.m. with 2 other guys, or you can stay on there and have the lake to yourself for a second week. And I said, oh, I'm staying there, mate. Anyway, by 1 p.m., I'd switched to the milk protein bait. I think I'd had 10 fish. Nothing under £40.
It's not bad,
So,
is it?
well, one of them was for 60, and I think 3 were 50s. I mean, that's a day's fishing, isn't it? That's a season's fishing, really. And I think, you know, I could have been standing in the hut queuing up with those guys. And I think on the end, I caught 49 fish, and there was only one under 30. That was £29 or something. And the bait ran out with a day and a half to go. I was casting stringers out, and when it got down to casting singles out, you know, they had a battering by then. And that was game over. But as you go through the book, there's some massive hits in there. I think there's 6 or 7 times where I've had more than a ton of fish in a week, and I think it'll be an eye opener. The amount of bait it takes to catch that many fish. You know, you're not catching that many fish on a kilo of bait.
Go on then, Jason. Shock us. How much are you stoving in?
Well, so there's a chapter on Austria. I mean, that lake's become quite big, but when I found it, it was unknown. It'd been in my book for about 10 years,
Right.
and a couple of fish popped up, you know, come out that I'd seen out of there, and I thought, you know, I've got to put my name in the hat and try and get out there. I've never been to Austria. And I got out there, and it was that whole year, it just never stopped raining. I mean, this was like August. It was absolutely pissing down. And all these fish were showing in my swim in weed up to about 80 yards out. And I chased them around like for a couple of days, but you needed to be in the middle of the pit. Anyway, I'd say I'd got about 30 or 40, 50 kilo bait out there before anything happened at all. And then it just kicked off, and it was So every time I had a fish, that's 3 kilo of bait going in. But you're just looking round and everyone's got their bivvy door zipped up, against the rain. No one's looking out. Um, and I'm going to bed at night. I'm winding in, going to bed, taking my clothes off, undoing the door, getting up first thing in the morning, putting on waterproofs, and right, I'm having a day's fishing. Because in the summer you're getting 18 hours of daylight anyway, aren't you? So, um, but if I say I caught 8 fish a day, um, that's 8 baitfuls. So that's 24 kilos a day going out. Now this is mixed pellet, hemp, and boilies, equal quantities. Then there's fish you lost. And then there's priming it as well. If nothing happens for an hour, I'm catching that often that I'll just send out another boatload and sprinkle it over the top of my spot, to try and make something happen.
So are you in terms of your boilie choice here, are you being a bit more kind of conservative with the price of it, or are you going balls out, best bait you can make,
No,
no expense
well,
spared?
the whole thing's an expensive operation, right? You got to
Yeah.
pay. You got to pay for your tunnel. You got to pay your petrol. You got to pay your tolls. You got to pay your ticket on the lake. You know, why skimp on your bait, right?
Yeah, very much so.
If you don't need it, you can bring it back. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of shelf life. You can bring it back. It's one of my biggest bugbears is when people leave the lake and their bait's gone mouldy and they throw it in the margin. It does my nutting.
Mm.
Anyway, in Austria, I didn't really see anyone else really catch very much at all. But I've had 60 runs over the course of the week, and I would think that's 100 kilo boilie, 150 kilo pellet, and 100 kilo hemp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but then the fish I caught, I mean, are just off the scale. I mean, I landed this mirror, and it was one of the ones I knew that was in there. It's the front of my book. I think it's £73. It's just such a mint fish, and I'm in the water, holding it, and there's like about 10, 15 people standing in my swim, and my tip's nodding. Now these fish, they've been fished for a bit, and everyone has to lose their legs. It's the rules of the lake. So that's all the fish do. They're shaking the tips. You're not getting full-blooded runs. And I'm pointing to everyone, pick my rod up, pick my rod up. And like no one's even noticing it. You know what I mean? And like I'm holding this fish and I'm thinking, get my bloody rod. Anyway, like one guy eventually he's picked my rod up and I put the fish in the bag and take it down and got out and played it. And he's walked out and he's netted it for me and he's gone, mate, it's bigger than the other one. And it's like, you're having a laugh, aren't you? So, I mean, I was fishing 2 rods and I had a 73 mirror and a 79 14 common on at the same time, double take.
Jeez.
Yeah. Um, and the next day at the same time, I did it again. Um, I can't remember what they were. I think the common was 71 and the mirror was 74. Two days running. And he said, like, do you know how many 70-pound fish are in it? I said, I haven't got a clue, mate. He said, well, you just caught half of them, like, in one day. But it was like that. And then, anyway, last evening, I wound in. He invited me around for a barbecue. So we went round and had a chat. Everyone out there was great. And I said, man, there's so many fish by the entrance to the fishery under the trees. I said, look, you wouldn't mind catching all them? And he said, you have. He said, that's where they go to sulk. He said, you caught all of them. It's like 60 carp or something. I think I had 40 fish over £40. That's in a week fishing two rods, days only.
Are you on days only, are you?
Oh yeah, I'm just going to keep. I can't do any more. I'm soaked
Yeah.
through and I'm knackered.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind these are all self takes as well, and a lot of them are in the water.
Uh,
Um,
what kind of time are you getting most of the bites, or is it just distributed throughout the day?
um, it's pretty civilized. I could have like a cup of coffee, nothing would happen. Then I'd drop some bait, not redo the rigs, just drop some more bait, have another cup of coffee, and then it would get going.
And how many fish are in the lake, and how big is the lake?
I think the lake's about 25 acres, something like that.
Right.
There's there's a good head of big fish.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it sounds like
Now,
it.
there might, I don't know. I mean, I booked the lake exclusive this year for June. Because of health reasons, I couldn't go. And seven of my friends went, and they caught four carp between them.
Jeez.
Um, I don't know. I got a feeling that there's too many female fish in the lake, and the fish aren't spawning. That's
Uh,
I hope I'm wrong. It did happen on my lake. I lost a lot of fish through being spawn bound and had to introduce a fresh intake of young, smaller fish to get them to spawn.
yeah. Yeah.
I hope that's not the case, but the future will tell.
Mm.
Um, but it's I mean, you look at some of these catches. I mean, there's a lot of stories like this. And there's another chapter at the end in the bait section, and it's called like the baiting triangle, um, and it's the fish's demand for food against pressure and against other circumstances,
Mm.
and you're basically fishing the way against the way other people fish. So in Austria, the fish would not, they would leave the swim if you put anything yellow in it. They were
Mm.
absolutely phobic of yellow. If you put a
Interesting.
yellow, if you put a yellow topper on your snowman, you wouldn't get a take on it. Whether it was yellow colour or yellow shade, I think better minds than me have argued this on the podcast already. But
Yeah.
they knew the difference. Um, Also, they knew the difference of the pop up. If that bait was off the deck, like you might get 8 takes on the wafter or bottom bait, you'd get one on the pop up and probably end up losing it.
Mm.
They were that suspicious of it.
Is this a pressured lake?
It's had pressure. It's getting more. Um, but like if I tell you, look, the average way people fish it is 8 rods in a swim, with like
Jeez.
a big bucket of corn. You
Mm.
know, so there's
Uh,
plenty of rods and lines out there, and it's been killed on the corn for years.
yeah.
Um, Now I fished this at another place. It was a random one. I turned out. It's a place called Coiland in Italy, um, which is basically a deep square hole in the ground. Again, with rods everywhere. I mean, I turned up thinking I was going to absolutely hate it. I set up in the wrong swim, then I had to move. The owner come round, absolutely top bloke, delighted. You know, that someone from England had come to fish at his lake.
Mm.
Come, bought me a beer and a pizza. Um, Absolutely, really enjoyed the week. Got on really well with the locals. I mean, the first fish I hooked, um, there was a line coming off it at 90 degrees, and a guy come walking up from the corner swim, and I think, oh god, this is how it's going to be all week. Like, you know what I mean, crossing lines over and all that. Anyway, he walked up and he cut his line off. He said, like, no problem and that. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, we got the fish in, and I've been told about this, right? I wouldn't have believed it unless I'd seen it. We'd both hooked it. We'd both caught the fish, and
Well, you,
uh,
two hooks inside
yeah,
its mouth.
one lip, one on the top lip, one on the bottom lip. I
Fucking
mean,
hell.
honestly, and it wasn't a small carp either. It was 45 pounds or something. And I just stood there laughing. Anyway, we both had our photo took with it, and it didn't happen again because it is deep. I mean, it's like 30 foot, and your lines go straight down, so you can play the fish no problem. I mean, I could even use saw rods, but again, it was a place where no one had ever gone in with a large quantity
Mm.
of really good boilies, and
So, so sorry, just to rewind a minute. What do you think? You both had rigs on very close to each other. It fed on one, got hooked, didn't realize, kept feeding, and then picked up the second hook, mate, or what?
Yeah, he was fishing ultra slack lines with really light bobbins and really light leads.
And the fish
Um,
just didn't know it was.
I guess. I mean, the other option is that one line's been dragged down the other and it's ended up in the mouth. But I mean, the chances of that must be absolutely
That,
millions to one. Yeah,
yeah, can't see that
yeah.
happening.
Um, but so piled the bait in, and it was crazy. That it was all afternoons, and I was using Thor rods, and I was having double, triple takes the whole time. It was just one fish after another, and everyone was coming around the lake to look at my boilies in the buckets. They were just couldn't believe how many boilies were going in the lake. And it is there's no waiting time. Like you're playing a fish, and I don't do all this where you leave fish in sacks and retainers. You know what I mean? Like I deal with that fish, put that fish back, and then if I'm able to, I put the rod out again. If I'm catching loads of fish, I'll go down with my rods. I mean, a prime example of this is like Sajaki in Croatia. I mean, the place is crazy. I mean, we got there, and the swim is 20 foot below where your divvies are. So straight away, like I said to my pal Paul, I said, mate, if we survive this week unhurt, that'll be a result. And he said, mate, there's no way I'm night fishing. I said, no, let's forget about that. Just fish days. Well, as it turns around, all the fish, it's quite deep, it's 20, 30 foot, and the fish are swimming around in the upper layers or mid water. And if you don't get a take within 5 minutes, you're not getting one. I mean, the locals fish, they call it spomacopter, and it literally is a helicopter rig on a spom, and they cast it out and leave it in situ for 2 minutes and wind it back. And some of them,
they've got a live rig attached to the spawn.
That's how they're fishing.
Okay,
And some of them are like mixing their bait with gravel as well. Just one to make more of a noise of it going in, and two to save money on bait. Anyway, I worked this out pretty quickly. Like, it didn't matter where you fished in your swim, you couldn't put in. There was that many fish that you couldn't put in enough bait to build an area or a thing. They were literally seeing it going down, and it was pot luck what you caught. You could catch a 2-pounder or you could catch a 70. I mean, the local authority delivers them carp every year, and it's a food resource, but it no longer is. It's an angling water, so they aren't taking it. So what keeps happening is they just get so many fish in there. There's a massive fish kill. I mean, I think they lost something like 800 fish or 1,000 fish last year, and people stopped going. But it's not even affected the fishing. But I said to Paul, mate, we can't have enough bait. Like we can't have enough. And there was this Dutch guy there that I know, and he's a little bit of a Mr. Fix-It, if you know what I mean, in all sense of the words.
Right.
I said, mate, what's the chance of getting some bait? And he said, what do you want? And I said, I need bait, lots of it. Anyway, within 3 hours, there was 400 kilo of red hot steaming particle turned up behind us in the swim. This bloke can get things done. I mean, it's match fishing. We're fishing one rod each, daytime only, and I think we've got through 600 kilo of bait. Fishing one rod each. I mean, you're not leaving it out there for more than 20 minutes. There's no point. Just wind it in, redo it.
Righty.
And again, like so you just didn't know what you would catch, but we did catch some really nice fish in there. I was just about to wind in for the night, literally picking the rod up, and it ripped off in the hand, and that was a 69 common. And while I was landing it, the other rod went, and I played that one in. We had them both in at the same time. Well, I think we just put the common back, and it was a bigger common. But it was fouled in the back. I mean, I looked in the mouth. There was no mark on the mouth. It was clearly fouled, right? So we just, sorry, mate, tapped it on the back and let it go.
Yeah.
But I think that was 10 pound bigger. And then the next hook was my mate pulled through the finger, which is why I use barbless hooks. You know what I mean? Like I just think if you're using razor sharp hooks, sooner or later they're going to get you. So But the last 5 years, mate, I'm a total convert, barbless all the way.
Yeah, I use barbless, to be honest, and I don't personally have a problem with my fish with very weedy waters, and I just don't have an issue. I'm barbless all the way.
People say to me, right, shelf life boilies, they're not as good. Barbless hooks, they're not as good. Well, I mean, this challenge, in the back of the book, there's a list of all the 50 pound plus carp I caught, and what I caught them on, where I caught them from. I've not included grass carp on the list. It's massive bloody grass carp. There's 101 fish on that list. You know, I've done it.
Mm.
And I did it with 4 trips to spare, and it was lucky because I ended up losing all 4 of those trips through the bad health. But you know, that's a fair advert for Barbary 6 and shelf life baits. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never ever advocated shelf life baits being better, but they make your angling better. You know, if I have to respond to an angling situation, all I do is take them out of the bag. You know, I've not got to defrost them. I've not got to hang them up in a tree. You know, if it's pissing down with rain, I've got to try and manage them in my bivvy or something. You know what I mean? It's an instant response to whatever situation the fishing gives me. Plus, if you don't use them, they fight another day, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that, mate.
And it's another one where, you know, I know every single component that goes in my bait. And I guess they got a bad rep because going back over the years, you know, they have been horrendous and people have used all sorts of things. So, you know, it's a case of trusting what you know, really.
I'm with you, mate. I've converted as well. And yeah, I mean, I think as well, it depends how you shelf life it. I mean, how are you preserving them? Are you doing it through pH and a few natural things that are probably attractive in their own right? Or are you shoveling shit preservatives in there? And obviously you're not doing that.
No, there you go. We're singing from the same hymn sheet there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this book, well, say a lot of it. There's quite a few chapters, like on this French complex that, you know, I had those 2 big fish from, and I was gutted. I found out that there was a compulsory purchase order on it from the canal company, and it was on borrowed time. You know, they were going to close it, cut it all down, fill it in, all of this sort of stuff. You know, within a couple of years. So I knew that I loved the place so much. I knew I had to maximise my time there. But I think a few of the fish had probably been stolen as well over the years because people knew this. But people had stopped going, and all the lakes were becoming really, really weedy. You know, without generalising people too much, the Dutch don't like weed, the French don't like paying for their fishing, and with less people going, the price was going up as well. And I was turning up, and I was finding I was the only person there on 4 lakes, 100 acres of water, and it was like heaven. You know, you could walk around, you could drop a bucket of bait under a tree here. You know what I mean? You could drop some reeds there in a margin there on different lakes, and then you could just walk around for hours looking for fish feeding in places that you'd primed up. I mean, it's all stalking as well. I mean, just absolutely amazing fishing. Now the Crown Jewels Lake 4, the furthest one away, probably had the most big fishing, and it was ram jam with weed. I mean, I came up with this 2-year plan to fish it. So I took the boat out and I GPSed 3 baits in and raked it for a day, no fishing, and put about 400 kilo of cooked seed in there to clear it. Right, and I didn't even fish it for that whole year. But every time I went there, I stick bait out to those spots or dropped it on the GPS. When I did fish it, again, I spent 2 days raking it and priming it. And sure enough, it was more or less solid weight until we got out to the spots, about 120 yards from the bank, and they were clear. So it's another bag up session anyway. It's 49 carp between, I think, 29 and 59. But like old English fish, like long fish, dark jet black fish, scaly fish, beautiful. Every fish like fantastic. But for every one caught, there was a bream, there was a tench. I mean, I probably dumped 200 leads, you know, because you're not going to land a fish in that weed without braid and losing the lead, you know. And generally it wasn't a problem. The only ones that were problem were bream because they didn't get rid of the lead. And
Yeah,
if you had to bream, I had to take the boat out 100 meters to get it.
that's
They
annoying.
were they were more annoying than the carp. And in the end, I started putting in sacks of peanuts, cooked peanuts, because the carp didn't seem to like them, but the bream loved them. Um, like that.
The carp didn't like the
No,
peanuts.
no, no,
Okay.
no. I think it's one of those. Sometimes you can get a mad instant response to them, but not very
Yeah.
often. Not very often at all. I think there's normally something that you have to bait the shit out of to get them going on them. Whereas like a tiger nut, you could go to anywhere with a carp in. You know,
Mm.
it's never seen it. It's eating it. It's just something about it. But with the peanuts, they're sketchy, but they kept the bream off me anyway. So they did the job there. Um, anyway, it was I'd done that, and she said, please give me the photos, and I was reluctant to do it, but I did it, and I never got back on there again because people just booked that swim and fish those
Mm.
spots, and I was out of there.
Mm.
But I went back on Lake Two, and my Dutch friend was coming down, and he said, "Look, I booked Lake One." I said, "Is there anything in there?" And he said there's there's a few, but I don't know. Um, Anyway, I said, look, I'm already here, so like for 2 days, I'll bait up for you. There was this tree down the margin. I said every day I'll put 2 or 3 kilos of bait in there. So, but the third day I've gone down there, put a bit of bait, and I see a really big fish rolling over it, and I thought, you're too good an opportunity, like not to have a go. So I've gone back for my rod. Um, and the lady that owns it, she's come around and said, you can't fish here, you can't fish. She said, there's gypsies just moved in half a mile up the road. She says if they walk on your rods there, she says you lose all your equipment. You know, you can't do that. And I said, okay, fair enough. Um, anyway, so he turned up that afternoon. I'd gone round there. I said, look, that's where I've been baiting, and I'll give him a kilo of the boilies that I've been baiting up. Um, anyway, 10 minutes later, he's on the phone, and he said, Joe, I just caught a really big mirror. Um, so I've gone round, and it's £61, but it's a beautiful fish. It's a really nice fish, and from then on, I wanted to catch that fish. But this Lake One again, it's solid weed. No one fished it the next year at all. No one at all. It was absolutely solid, and I thought I'll repeat the process. But this time I'm going to hire a drone, and I'll take a picture of it with the weed there, and again with the weed gone, just so people can see how much work and commitment's gone into this. Um, anyway, I spent a day clearing it, dropped 200 kilo of bait on the spots, and then went off to fish with my mate uh, on one of the other lakes, Pit 3, for the week, where we done all right. Anyway, we come back the first night into this Pit 1, and I put mine out on my cleared spots, and Dave's just pub chucked it out straight into the weed, basically. Anyway, next day, first bite, he's had the fish, and it's like, oh man, what's the chances of that? Um, anyway, I'm not stupid. I'm not like I looked at where he was pub chucking, and after he had two more and left, um, I was on that spot straight away. And I don't think he was even out of the gate before I'd had one off it. And then the following day, I had that one again, you know, the one I wanted. But the following day, I had a bigger one. I had a bigger six. No one knew these fish were in here, right? And I rang up on a mate and I said, I'm having some fantastic fish. Why don't you come down and join me? Um, and I said to him, do you know what? I reckon there could be a 70-pounder in here. And we laughed about it. Anyway, the day he left, I had a 74.5 pound from my other mark down the margin. And it was like, geez, these fish are sitting here like they've been here for years with no one fishing from in these weedy lakes. No bait
Mm.
going in, just living off naturals. But um, I think you have to realise the difference angling pressure makes to fish and the weights of them.
Oh, massively. Yeah,
Yeah.
they thrive off neglect, don't they?
I mean, you look at places like Linear and Walthamstow, which have been, you know, top circuit carp waters for years and years, and yet, you know, they're not full of big fish, are they? You're not
No.
big fish, and you know they sort of go and dig that braze nose for the kids to fish on, you know.
Yeah.
And there's all these people spotting stuff out like crazy. All of a sudden, there's 50-pounders in it.
Mm.
You know, I think the English way of fishing. inhibits it. I mean, like 85% of my customers buy 15 mil boilers, and I think, like, you're fishing 85% of the way everyone else does as well. You fish the way and they go, their mouths, they're not, they don't, not used to the big baits.
Mm.
I don't know about that, but it's completely the opposite on the continent. Everyone's using 24, 28 mil boilers, and you can literally go on there and rinse it by piling in 14 millers and stuff. It's
Yeah.
just breaking the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're very inquisitive as well, aren't they? There's the inquisition aspect of it as well.
There is, but
Um,
like these underwater films, like you look at the
mm,
way Carp feed, how deliberate and how slow it is.
absolutely.
I mean, when you are just pure boilie fishing, they're moving from one big bait to the next. They're
Yeah.
traveling, and it's giving the rig time to work,
To
isn't it?
work.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, rather than just hovering on a spot on tiny items like hemp that no one's ever even going to fish with.
Yeah.
Um, I just think we make a rod for our own back at times.
I agree with you, mate. Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned hemp. What are you doing anything in particular with your particles when you go out to France, or are you just literally using whatever you get your hands on?
Um, so over the years, I've always been very lazy with hemp. Like sometimes I've not even boiled it. It doesn't even split, but it still works. I think to the most part, it just has to be safe. Things like peanuts are really, really dangerous because they take on water so quickly. They're quite a good thing to take in the car, a sack, because you can prepare them easily on the bank, but you have to soak them and you have to prepare them. I mean, these days I'm lucky that I've got a guy, a good friend who lives local, and he sells leads to the trade, and he does all the coating powders and loops and that. And if I say to him, Tone, can you do me 100 kilo particle? He'll cook it up and bring it the next day for me.
Mm.
So I'm
So,
always getting.
so you don't have any favourites, or you're not doing anything like
Well,
fermentation or anything like that?
no. So last year he buys this sacks of chili, but it costs him not a lot, to be honest. And he so in a 20 kilo bucket he'll put in 5 kilo of chili, but it swells up and it looks like bloodworm in there.
Mm.
Uh, so I mean, it's not. It just looks really good, you know. Popcorn maize done work quite well with red maize, weird things, but all stuff that's been cooked up. I'm not really adding anything to it at all, other than just trying to keep it sort of fresh. Because I mean, one of my road trips in there, I document the miles, and also. Um, the distance and stuff, and I think one of them is like 78 hours driving on the road trip or something crazy like that. I mean, we drove all the way to Portugal. We went to Romania. Um, yeah, it's a proper mission. And if you're
Yeah.
on the road for 3 or 4 weeks, you've got to think, you've got to try and manage your bait as well.
Mm.
Because whilst I might be on a lake where the fish are going crazy and they want more bait, you think, well, if I do, then you know I'm impacting on next week already.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and if I'm allowing 100 kilos of bait minimum for 1 week's fishing, then you're going away for 3 weeks. Then you've got half a ton of bait in the car, and then you've got to start taking tackle and food and stuff like that out as well.
Mm.
Plus, if you're on your own, like on this French fishery, I mean, I once I was there, I couldn't really leave it. It wasn't. I come back and there's nothing there. You know what I mean? So when you're in situ, you're in situ. It was all right for a bit of stalking. You know what I mean? I would just take a brolly, throw that in the car, and then drive around with a rod and stuff.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. So, and this, so obviously I know you want to kind of run us through the chapters of the book. Where are we up to in terms of the chapters?
I flitted around a bit. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Cool.
With how we've been going. I mean, like I said about when we went to Romania.
Mm.
I mean, it was a mad trip because I wasn't even, for one, I wasn't even sure that the fishery was going to be there. We had that little communication with the guy. But when we did get there, it was an eye opener, really, how well people were fishing. there was some seriously good angling going on there.
Right.
But the one thing everyone was keen to point out to us was we had the second most shit swim on the lake. And when we moved the following week to another swim, that was the most shit swim on the lake.
So,
And like, which isn't great, is it? You don't want
no,
to hear that.
no.
But I thought again, it's one where I'm going to win the day with some really good bait. It's
Yeah.
everywhere I've gone, it's killed it. But you're on the spit on this island, and you've got all these rods the same direction going off over it, and some quite savage gravel bars, lots and lots of features, and buoys on the far bank about 300 meters separating the swims. And it didn't matter what you tried, like I couldn't get a take. And then eventually, I was fishing out by this buoy at 300 meters, and it was a bit cheeky. I sort of waited till after dark. I set my bait like 3 yards to the right, or half the rod anyway. And I think I fished right in front of the buoy because that's no man's land. And I had one there, and it was a single tiger that had been glugged in neat flavour base for like 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, and I had 3 bites that week, and it was all on that. You put any bait in at all, it's the kiss of death. Like, and that's what they all said as well. They said, put no bait in, put no bait in. And I'm thinking, that's not me. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's not the way I like to fish.
Do you think we are like streets ahead of every country in terms of bait? You've obviously been to a lot of countries. I've never fished for carp outside the UK, but there's a general kind of consensus that their bait is a little bit more primitive. Does that ring true to you, or have you been some places
Yeah,
where actually they're up
no,
there? No.
no. The bait is a long way ahead. It may even out, because it's getting massive carp fishing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I went to a shop in Italy, and it was the size of Tesco's. I mean, it was eye opening. The Europeans are ahead of us with tackle. Um,
Mm.
their tackle, all of their tackles better. It's better made. It's better thought out. It's practical. Like, I mean, I spent €800 on a rod pod, but it's going to last longer than me,
Jeez.
right? And it's the height of me. I can have my tips underwater, I can have them up in the air, whatever, but I haven't got to crawl on my knees to get the rods. You know what I mean? It makes fishing easy. If
Yeah.
I'm in the water or over rocks, I can just fish. It's so well built. So that side of us, if they'll pay that money for the tackle, then they'll start paying that money for the bait.
For the
But
bait, yeah.
but they just need that bit of education. I think the legislation in some of the countries is more adhered to as well. What you can use and what you can't use.
Mm.
I mean, like we've got strong legislation, but they don't really enforce it.
No.
Yeah, so you can get away with using anything. I mean, like, yourself, for a start, you're not supposed to use anything that's human grade, because they regard carp as livestock that go in the food chain. I mean, it's all complete nonsense, and luckily the whole thing's taken with a pinch of salt. But I think over there, I mean, things like, putting white dye in, no bait companies will do it. It's not a bad idea to go out there with white baits.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, we're still ahead on that level, and you can just have massive hits on this place by putting in that amount of good bait.
Yeah. As you say, though, it's got to be coming. I mean, I've got a couple of people from Europe in the bait club, and they are very knowledgeable and very hungry for knowledge. So
Yeah,
it's a sign that other countries, they obviously realize the importance of bait and that actually there's a lot that can be done with it. So as you say, I reckon it's probably only a matter of time, isn't it, before things start looking up.
Yeah, I guess it's working out the whole core value of carp fishing and what it is to worth the country. I mean, like, the French now know that, carp are worth a lot of money to sell them, right?
Mm.
This time, it's rather than putting them on the table, it's it'll be the same all across Europe. Tourism as well. If you have fish of that size, whether you're in Romania, Hungary, or whatever, you can charge hundreds or thousands of pounds, and people will come if
Mm.
you've got big enough fish. I mean, look at Euro Aqua. I mean, the last chapter in the book is on Euro Aqua. I'm not going to say anything political really about it one way or the other. It is what it is. I went there 10 years ago, and I took over 100 kilo on my own bait, and I had a fabulous week and really loved it.
Mm.
This year, you had to use their bait, which was maggots, and there was 45,000 euros worth of maggots winning the lake that week.
What?
Yeah, 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 something like that. Um, Now, the lake is it has its own irrigation system going through it, so the water renews every 48 hours, which is one of the reasons why
Key. Yeah.
the fish are so big. I mean, they're genetically very good anyway, but that's one reason. Um, I just think, you know, I'm trying to remember exactly. I want to get the figures exactly right here. I mean, 150 euros for like half a builder's bucket full of maggots.
Mm.
And people were throwing in 5 of them at a time, you know,
Right.
750 euros a go. Now, if you can afford it and you've got the money, fair enough. Like, I haven't got a problem with it, but it's not it's not great for me, you know.
No. It's
And
understandable, mate.
I just think if you used a really, really good bait and you sold it at a reasonable rate, that those fish that are that big, they could even be £10 bigger, but they're already enormous, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, not my cup of tea, but as you say, each to their own, isn't it? It's
Yeah, I was diabolically ill the last week as well. I was having a few problems by then, plus I had the flu. But I did have a nice fish, and I caught did a bit of zander fishing as well, and I had a really nice zander. So that's something I'm getting a bit more into now, is sort of other species and predator fishing as well, or certainly want to do.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely, mate. So going backwards a little bit, boilie, you numerous times you mentioned you're using a very good boilie. It's obviously one of your own that you roll yourself. Are you? And I know you haven't fished in the UK for many years. I think you said 25 years to me
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, shocking, isn't it?
Would you design your bait any different whatsoever if you were to start fishing in the UK, or would it just still be the exact same as what you do now?
No. So the one thing over the years that I have taken on board and got proper slated for was changing things. Making something, dropping it, and I like something else, dropping it. Because that's what my brain does. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
But then, like with this whole Nash thing, there were people that were loyal to the brand, people that would have had their PB on this and remember something was on this. So, like their concepts now, each bait has its identity, and I just change that a little if I can improve it in one way or not.
Mm.
If it doesn't, it stays the same. I mean, like the Plum Zing now, it's gone, I think, 2007, something like that. But it's changed about 6 or 7 times. It's
Mm.
fundamentally the same bait that just keeps getting tweaked. But the version now is like it's like a weapon. I mean, I can't really think well, I'm not going to stop trying, you know what I mean, but there's a lot going on and it works really well. I mean, we went to this lake in Italy last year in Milan, and it was a heat wave out there. It was horrendous, mate. I was getting bit by flies, mosquitoes. I was sitting with my in a bucket of water, and then like, my body temperature was raising the water level up to that temperature in about 2 minutes, but it stopped the ants biting me as well. And I I was there for 5 days, and then I had a whole week with all my friends coming. We had the place exclusive, and the guy said, we've not had an exclusive on here for a year. We'll let you use your bait boats. And I just said to everyone, like, bring pellet and bring hemp, whatever, because you can use it. And normally it's a throwing stick only rule on the lake. Anyway, I had no bait really to fish with the first 5 days, and it was 62 feet in front of me. And I had a margin to cast to that was 10 foot, and I was just getting bitten off by turtles and catching a few sturgeon. And it was sapping, mate. And I'd quite happily have gone home, but I had this exclusive booked. And the second week moved round to a swim with a bit of shade and different sort of ball game. But like the hemp and the pellets and that, it really didn't do anything. I don't think the fish had seen it. Weren't the way people fished, because even spods weren't allowed. But boy, man, did bait boats full of boilies make a difference? Jesus. I mean, the cultures are something that I like messing around with the dissolvable coatings and attractors. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, go on, mate.
No, I was going to say, to be effective though, you have to have them in the swim while fish are feeding. There's no point putting one out for the night and expecting that to catch. 8 hours later, all you're going to have is the water core. Everything else is gone. Well, once the bait went in there, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was a case of put it out there, hook a fish within 5 minutes, be playing the fish for 15 minutes, and then put it out again. And you weren't waiting more than 5 minutes for a take. Again, yeah, I think there was some newly stocked £20 commons, but there was an awful lot of big fish. I think, again, days only, 2 rods. The fish arrived in my swim at 3 o'clock, and there was already like 15 kilo bait waiting for them. And it just went on from 3 o'clock to as long as you could handle it. I mean, every third fish was sitting in the dam with the aircon on, like with a cold drink. But I mean, I think I had 40 40s, 65 or 66, 68, something like that. It was just crazy fishing. And I mean, that's using a bait boat, right? And if you were putting all that out with a stick, you would be there all day long, just sticking and still wouldn't get the accuracy, But the cultures, they were something else. The fish were coming back, all their mouths, just like had all the red all around their lips and everything,
So, I mean, you might not want to go into fine detail, but how are you making these cultures?
So, I mean, I guess it's no secret anymore now. Now Nash are gone, but we had like tombola machines there. They were rounded out cement mixers with no blading that spun twice as fast. So you put your core in, drop like a nutritional liquid in LA30 or the equivalent of that. Then your coating powder, whatever recipe you come up with. Obviously, you can't have too many solubles. Spin it like crazy. Then put some more liquid in, spin it like crazy. And that's how you build it up.
Why does it need to spin really, really fast?
It just compacts it. It just gives you that round finish, and it compacts it. I mean, you can make them in a bucket, right?
Yeah.
It's time consuming, and they won't be perfectly round, and they won't be as compacted and as hard. But you can make them in a bucket, just roll them around yourself, which people have been doing for years. It's no different from the like lick and stick system, but the harder that coating is, the longer it takes to break down. And obviously, it was something I was really into for a year, controlling it. And I had on all my tubs like 6 hour breakdown, 5 hour breakdown, 4 hour breakdown. And I was testing them all the time. And when I got there, I'd get the jar of lake water out and I'd put one in, so I knew roughly what was going on in the swim. But so that was the only session in the book really where I absolutely mutilated somewhere on it, because at that time I had that amount of feeding fishing. And it's just sort of like there's 2,000 boilies in your swim, and there's one that's got this red halo emitting all these food signals, and it was just like bang, we're having it. It was really, really good.
What do you like to add for when you make your cultures for yourself?
So there's a whole chapter on acids in the back of the book. I
Right.
mean, I've talked a lot about organic acids, but I think there's actually there actually is a recipe for the combination that I use in the coating.
Right.
That's in there.
Does that detail the red? You mentioned about the red a few times. Does that recipe detail what you're using to get it red?
No, it's literally just a soluble red food dye. I mean, again, there's a whole world of dyes out there. Some are slow release, some don't. Some are oil soluble, some are water soluble. It's a little subculture playing around. I guess for a home bake maker, like the whole culture thing's quite an exciting thing. You can do without masses of expense and stuff. I mean, I mean, there are certain aminos I like in that form, but like they say, they have to be in the fish, and it can be a bit of a minefield. I don't know if you read any of that Dudley Lamming study on amino acids, did you?
There's so many. That one doesn't jump out at me though. I've probably
Yeah.
read it.
So it's your poor old mice that get the brunt of it again, as they do in all poison studies, and
Yeah.
I think it might be a few rabbits and things as well. But they give certain laboratory animals the same, like try and recreate their lifestyle, but they give them increased doses of amino acids,
Right.
and it massively shortens their lifespans, massively,
Right.
like by 75% and upwards. At like 300% exposure to levels of certain amino acids.
What's
I
the
mean,
mechanism behind that? Do you know?
it's all in that study. I think there's a link to it in the book. I mean, there's the whole science of bodybuilding, but I mean, I've got friends that are into that, and they have lots of gout and joint pain and
Yeah.
arthritis and things at quite a young age, and you think, like, when you get further down the line in your life, like, how much problem is it going to cause, and is that necessarily steroids or whatever, or is it just massive exposure to amino acids? I, I think what you can get out of them, they I think there's certainly organic acids which are far better and more effective and more attractive to start with. So
Yeah.
there is a chapter that goes into all of that. But no, the coatings for my bait. So I like to make oil powders, just stirring sort of flavors I like into maltodextrin and things like that. Just things that you find attractive. You're putting one bait out there, right? So it's quite hard to overdo it. I mean, I remember when we made one of the first batches of cultures at Nash Bait, they all came out like oblong shapes. And Gary gave me 30 kilo to take away. And I thought, I sod it, I'm going to chuck 20 kilo in a swim.
Mm.
And the owner said that swim didn't do a bite for 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Uh, so it was a bit reckless, but again, it was point in case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're putting out a signal, and if the signal doesn't match up with
Yeah.
the thing that's on your hook, you're leading the fish to the wrong place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example of it. When I first started doing the organic acid preservative thing, I really thought I'd found the holy grail. I mean, it turned up a blank session ran into an incredible one. I was so excited about it. But since then, I've learned there's certain control circumstances, water temperature, acidity of the water. There's all sorts of things that can influence it. But I had this friend who was match fishing, and he said, "Can I try it?" And we're quite interested in that sort of thing. So he gave me his ground bait, and I just mixed it into his ground bait at the same rate I was putting it into the boiled baits. And I said, like, how'd you get on? And he's fishing for these, what they call them, F1s or whatever, or small carp, or, you know what I mean? Like big nets of
Yeah.
small carp, basically. And he said, it's no good, mate. And he said, like, I was on a good peg because, like, 2 or 3 pegs away from me, they won the competition.
Mm.
And this went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, like, how do you fish? And he said, well, you need to keep casting, you need to keep getting the feed in, and the fish come from the sound of the method ball in the water. And I thought, shit, I wonder if, like, I'm just putting in way, way, way too much for it. So I dropped it down from 10 grand to 1 gram, and I think he won like 7 or 8 matches in a row before they sort of banned him. um, yeah. So again, it's doses, isn't it? It's you have
And,
to.
and it was a particular organic acid, was it?
No, it's a blend of about 13 or 14 different ones,
Got you. Yeah.
all at low levels, but 10 gram per kilo on the boilies, but on the ground bait, it had, 1 gram was like,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, mate. Yeah, organic acids are phenomenal things, aren't there? And there's a lot more out there than people realize. People just think of citric acid, butyric acid, and that's pretty much it, isn't it? But there is shitloads of organic acids.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
it touches into the flavors with the acids as well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that, and you know, how much you want to look into the pH of flavors and stuff. I stopped doing it, you know what I mean, because you sort of what ones work really well and what ones don't. I mean, I formulated an ultra spice on EA, and I spent quite a lot of money doing it actually, and it was pure vanity. It was something I just fancied doing, and it all came to do with making this wrong bait. I put my special additive in that bait, which is an oil based attractor, and it already had an oil based attractor in it. So I thought they were fighting each other. So I thought, if I can use that oil based attractor, drop the other oil and have the ultra spice in on an alcohol base, then I'm not fighting it, and I get the best of both worlds. Now I put it in there with the ultra spice on the oil base, and it's been really, really disappointing. And I think it's just like a repetition of the two flavors has been too much overall. I'm sure if I halved the volume, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
both flavors,
yeah.
then there's going to be a level when it's going to be a really good thing. But that's the only trouble when you're not fishing. I'm not field testing either.
Yeah, that's it. You've been out of action for a while, haven't you?
But I think I cancelled 5 or 6 trips this year,
Yeah.
and it hurts.
Mm.
I mean, I booked a 3 week road trip to Austria after October to fish some big lakes in the Alps, and booked it with some comforts like a house and stuff. And I'm hoping I'll make that one, and that'll be getting back into it then.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what happened to you? Is it something that you want to kind of put out there, or would you rather
Well,
not? It's up to you, mate.
Well, briefly, I won't go into too much detail. I mean, the diary is a warts and all, right? I mean, there's one chapter where people going, "Fuck me, catching fish all the time." Well, you don't catch fish all the time. My dad got stuck in February. It got bogged down at the lake, and I was stranded there for 3 weeks. And I had to get through 3 big storms in the busy light, and I'm thinking I must be mental. Do you know what I mean? But equally, you're still testing yourself. You know what I mean? You're still proving that you can catch summer, winter, all seasons, and be out in all seasons and that. So the book is a true account of those 5 years with
Mm.
all the ups and downs. There's a lot more ups than there are downs, but there's a few downs. I mean, I found a lump in my cheek by my ear, and I went to the doctors about it. He basically told me it was my imagination. Um, it
Jeez.
got worse over the next 3 or 4 months. When I went back and he looked at it, he said it's the same the other side. There's nothing there, honestly. Like, forget about it. And this is why I put it in the book. Just if you think something's wrong, just keep pushing it, because the most valuable thing you have is time and health.
Yeah.
It's not money, possessions. It's nothing like that. It's your own time and health. So I booked a third appointment, and they were obviously sick of me by then, because they told me I had to go up and see this old lady up at the pharmacy who was a retired GP, and it was like about 9 o'clock at night. Anyway, I got up to see her, and she said, "Look, I don't like that's a really hard lump. I don't like it. You need to have an ultrasound on it." So I booked the ultrasound, and the woman, she was scanning the wrong place, so I had to show her where to scan it.
Jeez.
Yeah, and she said, "Yeah, you got a 5 centimeter lump there, which will probably have to come out, but that I have no worries at all. I can guarantee you, it's 100% benign. There's nothing to worry about." So they put me on a 26-week review, 26-week waiting list, half a year waiting list, for a review of it. Anyway, it got worse. I went to see another doctor, and by then, the right half of my face was paralysed. I couldn't move my right eyebrow or my mouth. I hadn't even noticed, uh, you know, but it had become quite painful. And he did a biopsy, and he said, "Yeah, you've got one of the most virulent strains of cancer there is." Um, so it was like, the woman with the ultrasound said it was absolutely fine, mate. There's nothing there. Um, so I ended up having an 8-hour operation, where they took that out. They took all the facial nerves out, the right side of my face. So I can't move my left eye, my mouth, or breathe through my nose on that side. Took all the glands and soft tissues out of my neck. Had an operation on my eye, to move that over, to line it up. And then before radiotherapy, this is quite gruesome now. I said I wasn't going to get it, didn't I? Before radiotherapy, I had to have 7 teeth taken out and my gums stitched up.
Fucking hell.
And then, believe it or not, the radiotherapy was worse than the whole process put together.
Jeez.
And that finished 6 weeks ago. Yeah. So
It's absolutely fucking savage, mate. Obviously, you've been giving me little updates, and hey, you can't put yourself in that situation, I imagine, until you actually gone through it. You can't imagine how savage that is.
No, I mean, apart from anything else, it's the best part of my life that I would have lost at best. You know what I mean? Because we still don't know that the conclusion for this is the way we want it to go. But mate, if anything's like that radiotherapy, it's fucking amazing. That in the cancer centre, they were wonderful, right? So I slated the doctors. The cancer centre was a different ball game, absolutely incredible. But there's 200 people sitting in there having their appointments or radiotherapy or chemo, and most of them were like 15, 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
By the end of it, when I walked in, I was the one everyone pointed at. I look at the state of him. It was, that's how it was. But I just think, how much has that cost the NHS and the country as well? I mean, I've probably been to the hospital now 70 times. And if someone had just taken it more seriously at the start,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't change anything. You can't go back. And like when these people say, you need to be recompensed. I can't be, because I lost that time. Like to me, I can't go back. There's no point. You can only go forward. And you can only do your best. But just think that the motto of the story is: if something isn't right, just keep pushing it. Just say, mate, I'm not happy with this. I want to see someone else. I want a second opinion.
Absolutely, mate. It can save your life, can't it? Yeah, it really can. And whilst on one hand you've been massively fucking unlucky, you've also been very lucky in some regards, right? You are coming out the other side, and you are, things are looking up. week on week, aren't they? And
I
sadly, some
consider,
people don't get
yeah,
that.
I consider that I led a good life. You know, um, certainly when I was young, we were out all the time doing things like the whole house music thing and all of that. They were great times. I've had so many good times fishing. Like the last 5 years, I mean, how immensely privileged is that to
Oh,
be able
massively.
to spend 20 weeks a year fishing, doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think like there's probably half a page of the morbid stuff, what I just told you in the book, and
Mm,
hopefully the rest of it is joyous. You know what I mean? It's like you can't underestimate going somewhere, seeing the scenery, being in the nature, just being there, like living the moment. And to me, I've had so much out of fishing, and the people I've met as well. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of people that in fishing that don't even really know me that have messaged me and said, "Look, mate, we're on your side and keep going." And when everything is so bad, you need that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It can be a bit much to sort of. I've had some wobbles. Do you know what I mean? And little messages and things, and certain mates have been incredible, and a lot of that's come through fishing for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, the treatment is all now it's going, wow, you're making improvements every week and things are looking bright, right?
It is improving. I mean, I've just started eating. I've just started tasting things.
Yeah.
Like my mouth's dry. Like one of the hardest things is I've not been able to look at a computer for best part of the year. Now, I mean, I proofread all the chapters in the book. I was pretty sure that I was happy with them. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to have the read through to make sure the continuity was there and no repetition. And
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do that. The plan originally as well was to have the photographs, sort of in every chapter placed. We couldn't do that. So then I had to label all the chapters, and that it was a proper work. You know what I mean? It was like,
Mm,
man, I think I had 4 migraines that weekend doing that, just trying to see it. But
yeah.
no, we like we're starting to get somewhere with it now. You know?
Yeah. Glad to hear it, mate. Very glad
Yeah.
to hear it. I mean, is there anything else you want to cover in the podcast? Anything you think the listeners might want to hear? Anything you want to share? Any bait ideas or theories or anything at all?
So there's a little section like in the back. It, it it's not an afterthought. I mean, I'd written 2 quite technical chapters, and I did them for the British Carp Study Group.
Mm,
Now they they were kind enough to let me use them in the book.
yeah.
Uh, it would have been hard at that point for me to have written something new, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's probably more insight into flavours and acids than I've seen in print before anyway.
Yeah.
Certainly, Paul sent it back to me about 10 times. He said, "No, mate, you can do better. Like, you can do better than that." I was like, mate,
Mhm.
I was getting to the point where I kind of had enough of this. He goes, "No, no, 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 I want you to cover this." So I think they're pretty good chapters.
Right.
Then there's like my baiting triangle thing, and that's the outside effectors, which is what other people are using. Like, is there enough oxygen in the water? That sort of thing. But I think each chapter is bait focused anyway because it's my thing. You know what I mean? In a lot of the sessions, there's a list of each day. What I put in, exactly how I fed it, fish activity in the swim. It's a sort of diary in that respect.
Mm,
But also, there's recipes for flavors. There's recipes for creating the coatings or the cultures or the acids and that. I think there's a fair bit in there that you can take out of it if you want to.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And what is the name of the book?
Oh shit! A break,
It's a
a
good name.
break. No, a break from the old routine.
Yeah, break from the old routine. And if
Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to want to buy it, where would they go to buy it?
So you can get it on the Carp Productions site. Does Terry Hearn's books, and
Yeah,
that they can send it out worldwide or paper cards, or you can just get it off me direct. You can pay with PayPal on the abate.com site, or just message me on any one of the medias, and I'll just give you a PayPal hit or bank details. Um, which would be very much appreciated because my it's not a big living room and it's full of books at the moment, so I could do with a bit more space to. Uh,
I'm sure, mate. I'm sure it's quite a big book as well, isn't it?
um, it's 380 pages,
Of small
but
print.
it is small print. You know, if it was, I don't know if it was like sort of an all colour book like Terry's, I mean, or something like that, you'd probably be looking at about 800 pages, and there's
Yeah,
200 colour photos in sections. And we ended up having to leave a lot of them out. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a picture of 150 £50 plus fish in there, but also some of the nicest pictures are like the scenic ones, or you know,
yeah,
just some of the oddities as well, which make the trip.
yeah, absolutely, mate. So you can go and get it at Calm Productions, and your website, which you can also obviously get your bait from, and that is the abait.co.uk, is it?
.com.
Dot
Yeah,
com. So
yeah,
the abait.com.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect,
And
mate.
and I won't be tinkering or changing with anything at the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I think people have said that to me actually, that you like to change your baits, don't you? You
Yeah,
like to change the
yeah,
lines, and you're going away from that obviously now.
yeah. So it's trying to do them as a concept. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm making a bait, everything in there, there's a reason for it to be in there. It has a function.
Mm.
Um, you know, it might be just a binder, or something to ease it rolling, but there's a point of it being in there. It's an attractor, or it's adding worth. You know what I mean? There's nothing that isn't calculated that's just put in because it's there. And every concept starts with one thing that you think is like unique or special, and that's going to make the difference. Um, and so, like with the concept, it's just improving something, you know. And suppliers, foodstuffs, it's an ever changing playing field. Stuff you've used in the past isn't available. Stuff that's coming on the market is getting better and better. I mean,
Yeah.
we piggyback and steal from the health feed industry, from the animal feeds industry. Well, those animal feed yields, they have to get better. The population's growing. They
Yeah.
have to be more effective. People are more discerning about their own health and what they put in their own bodies. So ingredients are always improving. You can literally buy anything from anywhere now. You know what I mean? Like one of my
Yeah.
yeah, I mean one of my products comes from Japan. It goes to Poland, and it comes to me through Poland. You know, it's a bit of a left field, but you know, I don't know how I could replace that one thing if I didn't have it. Um,
Yeah,
so
and I've said this a lot recently, but I'll say it again. Everyone's all rose tinted glasses about old ingredients. There's never been a better time than now. The amount of ingredients that are available is just staggering. You know,
yeah,
things are so much easier to get hold of now. We live in the best. It might not seem like it to people because people are nostalgic, but I think we live in the very best time to make a bait that there's ever been by far.
100%. I mean, I get people in America asking me this and that, and I remember when we used to go out to Canada and we'd go to the co-op shop, and
Mm.
there'd be like sacks of casein and calf milk powder and lactalbumin and stuff sitting there like for pennies. And I thought, fuck me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd
Yeah.
love to be a bait maker in America. Yeah, everything's like in the shop and it's next to nothing. But, you know, they've got a very limited market out there. But again, the people that do it are passionate about it. And, you
Mm.
know, it will grow in time. You know, people who accidentally hook them on lures or flies and have the right tear up, you know, will enjoy it, and
Yeah.
we'll do a bit of it. you know.
Yeah.
But no, 100%, mate. I mean, I consider, well, I got one bait on there that I brought out for the winter, and it was a suitable bait for the winter, so I thought there was no point in not trialing it during the winter. But it was designed to feed the fish in my lake, and it's been doing that very, very well. But the other three, I mean, like I say, in the back of the book, it tells you what I caught my fish on. I mean, like, I, there's nothing I would rather use. Now, there might come a time where you have to stick a ball of maggots on or a single tiger nut that's been floating in flavour for 10 years, but there's an awful lot of boilie caught fish in that book. I mean, I think over the 5 years, there's 780 fish over £10, like, you know.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just crazy numbers. But I mean, I've always been very anal about keeping records, and
Yeah.
I like statistics, and you know, I've done that with my bait recipes and ingredients, and invariably they're all on bits of paper screwed up in the bottom of the drawer or somewhere,
Yeah.
or the back of the book, and I've got no idea where to find them. Rather than just being on a memory drive somewhere, but they're all sort of stored or recorded, and I
Yeah.
can remember everything I've had and where I've had it.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. Yeah, I know you're a stickler for it, for your records. And
Uh,
it's good. Comes in handy when you do things like write this book, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it's written over the well, it's written over 4 years because really, like the first of those 5 years was covered by the last book.
Yeah.
And you have space of being really really into writing. I sit down. I think you got a clear mind and you can really enjoy it and you can do stuff. And then it's something you think I can't be bothered or put it away in a drawer for 6 months. And then I'm not feeling it and not enjoying it. I'll put it away for another 6 months and get it out and go and get another fresh, breath of wind. It's just like I say, when it came to finishing it off and getting it over the finish line, it was just really, really, really frustrating.
I can
Trying to
imagine.
focus on it and pull it together and stuff. But we got there, mate.
It is. Sorry, I don't want to keep going on. I know we were rounding it up. I know it's painful to talk for long periods of time for you as well. But your last book, is that still available if people do want that or not?
No.
Sold out.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them going on eBay for £100, which this alone might get a few people sticking it on eBay, perhaps. But I've had loads and loads of people asking me for it, and I asked Chris, if we could do a reprint or make 100 or 200 or 300 or something like that. And
Yeah.
he said no, mate, it'd be like a new book. You'd have to do a complete run of it. I mean,
Right.
which in this case is 1,000 books.
Right.
So if anyone is desperate for it, I've got a basic file I can send by email. It's readable. It's hard work on the laptop, but it's
Yeah.
readable. And I've sent that to a few people, but yeah, I haven't even got any spare copies of it myself.
That was called The Only Way Is Carp. Is that right?
No,
No.
crikey, this time it's personal.
This time it's personal.
Yeah.
You did one called The Only Way Is Carp, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a compilation ones with friends
Right.
and different people. This time
Oh,
it's first.
that was
Yeah.
like 15 odd years ago, wasn't it? The Only Way Is Carp. Is that right?
Yeah, that is. I mean,
Long time ago.
the latest one was 3 sections. It was like the early days of carping in the UK, like 80s and 90s and that. Then there was a big bait section in the middle, and then the last of the 3 sections was basically the first year of all of this. Like
Yeah. You sent
yeah,
me a copy before, didn't you? It's got like a blue hardcover.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah. I forget the
yeah.
names, mate.
If you can find it, it's £100 on eBay now, apparently.
No, I'll keep it, mate. I'll keep it. Look, Jason, it's probably been too long. We recorded your last podcast bloody years ago, but it was good to chat to you again. I hope people go and buy your book and go and buy your bait and show you some support. I'm sure they will. Book sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to reading my copy. And yeah, thanks ever so much for coming on, mate.
No, cheers. I'm glad I mastered the technology in the end.
Yeah, we got there in the end.